Shania was crying bitterly on the couch. All her plans for today had failed, and everything turned out completely opposite to what she had hoped for. Shania glared at Lara murderously. I know you planned all of this. Are you happy now? She asked angrily. Yes, and honestly, it turned out much better than I had hoped for, Lara answered proudly. Shania glared at her. What do you gain? He still didn't choose you. We both lost, she said. As long as he's happy, I'm cool, Lara answered. And honestly, if I wasn't going to have him, then you weren't either. Both of us lose, Lara shrugged. Sanya scoffed at her answer. You will pay for this, she warned and stood up, composing herself. I will make sure you and that stupid maid pay for this, she vowed. Whatever, Shania. But the plan didn't involve creating a rift between you and your mother. I hope you make your peace with her. Lara sympathized. Shut up! Sanya snapped. Why are you even angry? Lara asked. You should be thanking me. I saved you from entering into a loveless marriage. Shania laughed at this. It was never about love to me like it was to you, Lara. She sneered. I see. It was about money and fame then. I guess Kuni should thank me then. I really rescued him from your clutches, Lara said. Shania glared at her and stormed out in anger. Lara then went to Kuni after that. Kuni smiled on seeing her. Lara, that was your plan all along. I knew something changed about you, he stated. Why would you do that for me? He asked. Lara just shrugged. She was done with this topic. She didn't want to keep talking about this. I just came here to inform you that I know where we can find her, she said with a smile. Omi didn't have to go to the North Estates for work today, so she joined Ruth at their food stall. She had just finished serving some customers and was putting a few things away when another customer came to stand in front of the food stall. Omi was still putting a few things away, but when she looked up to welcome her customer like normal, she was very shocked to see who it was. Omi's mouth practically hanged open in shock. He was the very last person he expected to see here. Omi wondered what Kuni of all people would be doing in a local market like this. Before she could say anything, Kuni started pointing at some items in the food stall and asked Omi to pack them up. He was just acting like a typical customer. Omi was so confused, but she did as instructed. She packed everything up and handed them over to him. He then asked her for the bill, and Omi just told him the bill in a daze. At this point, Kuni's presence had gotten the attention of so many people in the local market. Kuni was dressed rather casually, but the way he carried himself was so regal and demanded attention. Men like him do not go grocery shopping, and much less in a local market like this one. So many people were curious. This obviously caught Ruth's attention too. She came up to stand next to her sister. She had never seen Kuni before, but judging from Omi's expression, she understood who he was. Kuni was all her sister had been talking about lately, and she was afraid for her sister since she was clearly falling in love with a man of a different social class, and he is an engaged man as well. Omi and Kuni were just silently staring at each other when Ruth interrupted. She went on to introduce herself as Omi's older sister. You must be Mr. Kuni. Omi speaks a lot about you, Ruth said. This immediately caught Kuni's attention, and he finally looked towards Ruth. She talks about me? What does she say about me? Kuni asked with interest. It is not what she says about you that worries me. It's the look in her eyes as she talks about you that worries me. Mr. Kuni, do you like my sister? Ruth asked directly. Omi was so embarrassed. She tried to stop Ruth from speaking, but deep down, she also would love to hear an answer to that question. And Kuni did answer as he looked at Omi lovingly. What I feel for your sister is much more than just liking, he said. Omi was a blushing mess after hearing that. She had obviously fallen for Kuni, but never had she expected him to feel anything for her. She had no plans of pursuing her feelings for him. She was just going to wallow in her feelings and hope they disappear with time. Mr. Kuni, I don't mean to be rude, but you're engaged, and from what I heard, your wedding is in plans. Please, I don't want my sister to get hurt, Ruth said plainly. All this while, she had thought her sister was the only one who shared an interest in her boss. But now, it seemed like her boss felt something for her too, and Ruth wasn't sure how to feel about it. Kuni understood Ruth's concerns. She was just worried for her younger sister. You have nothing to worry about. I am a very single man, he said as he kept staring at Omi. But I have no plans of staying single. I have my eyes on someone, he added. His eyes were just fixed on Omi. His message was very clear. Omi was so shy. She could feel his eyes on her. At this point, a small crowd had gathered around and people were whispering. The luxury of privacy wasn't really a thing in a local farmer's market like this one. Besides, Kuni didn't look like a local at all, so the people wanted to know who the stranger is and what he is doing here. All the vendors in this market were familiar with each other. Omi and Ruth were loved around here for their good character and hard work. So the people wanted to know who the handsome, regal man talking to them is. Some people had seen Kuni come out of a luxury car parked at the street, so their admiration for him had grown. They knew he was a man from a wealthy background. Omi was very shy, but Kuni didn't seem to care about the onlookers. It seemed like it was something he is used to. Kuni then went on to say he would love to take Omi out on a date. He was so direct. It was like he was asking for permission from both Ruth and Omi. The small crowd of onlookers had it too. So, Omi, could you please join me for lunch? I happen to know a thing or two about your appetite. So I was thinking of preparing something delicious for us, he joked. Omi and Ruth knew what he was hinting at. The first time she and Kuni met was a rather memorable one. The three just laughed at the memory of it. As Omi and Kuni walked out of the market, he turned to the onlookers and boldly announced that he intends to marry Omi, and all of them would be invited for the grand wedding. The crowd bursted in cheers and shouts of joy as the two walked out hand in hand. Lara, who was the acting driver, drove them to the city center where Kuni's penthouse was located. And then she left the two lovebirds. At the penthouse, Kuni went on to cook just like he had promised, and Omi assisted. It was a very wonderful experience for them. They had so much fun. After that, they enjoyed their meal together like they had been doing for a while now. What started from a very hungry Omi stealing food, which was no doubt wrong, had developed into a deep friendship of them enjoying each other's company as they shared meals together. And from the looks of it, there are gonna be many more meals and moments to come.